Hey, welcome to After the Whistle. I'm Mike Pereira. I'm the head of officiating of the USFL. Each week, we talk about some of the most exciting plays and controversial plays in the USFL, and we'll do the same today. Week 5 was exciting, had some great catches, close calls, big hits, but we're really excited to be joined by Michigan Panthers head coach Jeff Fisher. This is the first time that we have had a coach on our show, so it's very cool. And we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, but let's talk about rule changes first, and let's break some news. Jeff, I understood this morning that we have actually expanded our rosters.
Yeah, it was great news last night, with having, gone halfway through the season and now it's starting to get hot and, you're dealing with injuries and those rosters they're hard to manage. And so we got permission to expand our game day roster by 2, and that should go into effect this coming weekend. So we're going to go from 38 to 40, which, gives you a little bit of breathing room. We're managing injuries and moving people around, and to be able to keep a couple more guys active on game day really is going to help from a coaching standpoint.
And you got stung by kicking wolves early in the season. So are you using this for getting a kicker or a punter?
Yeah, yes, as a matter of fact, we've got one who's en route right now. He's out here on the interstate, I hope. So, when you have the small roster size, most of the teams recognize the shortage, and so we didn't feel like we had the luxury of carrying a punter and a kicker and a long snapper in that 3-man operation. So you get your long snapper, and then you go get a kicker that also punts or a punter that also kicks. And so the way the games have gone and unfolded, I've had some issues with respect to getting the ball through the uprights. We decided to bring a punter in. Most of our games, we've lost 4 games, unfortunately, and all by, a couple points a game. So, these kicks and the field positions becoming much more important now. So hopefully the punter will help those situations.
Now let's talk about the Jeff Fisher rule. I was reading the news clips about the USFL, and it's last night, it's all identified the Jeff Fisher rule. You want to tell us how that all came about?
First off, am I limited to just one, or is that it? Is that my shot for the year? Because
you've got history. You probably do whatever you want now. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you and I go way back before we both had help with our vision here, but and we're wearing glasses, but. It came up a few weeks ago. We were in a situation where our opponent scored and trying to figure out whether they're going for 1 or for 2 or for 3 or for 4 or for 8 or for 10 after the score. And so I really didn't get any confirmation from the officials. They were busy doing their stuff, and we're trying to rush and hurry and substitute. So then a few series later, we went ahead and scored, and so in the kicking situation that I was in and trying to get our PAT team on, I just called timeout and decided to go for 2 rather than 1, and was told that we couldn't do that. So I just felt like it made sense that if we had a timeout, and I wanted to change my election after, initially still let the crew know what we wanted to do, that I should be able to change it. I didn't see that would be unfair to anybody. It just made sense. Sometimes, you might have an injury on your PAT team and may elect to go, or so your quarterback's down, or something happens, you want to change. So I felt like if you had a timeout, why not? So I went down that path. Of course, you and I had the conversation, and I discussed it with several others, and we kind of put the pencil to the paper and sorted things out. So it's not a big change, but it's something that just feels right. And so, then of course, when you do that, as having done this all your life, there are those unintended consequences and you have to think the whole thing out. And, at the end of the day, I think we got a rule change that works for everybody. There are the issues that come up with respect to, Team B being the defensive team fouls prior to the try. There's a carryover and all those things, but we got to sort out. So we got a rule I think works well.
Well, the truth be known, when you called the timeout and you wanted to go for 2, the officials were going to let you go for 2. But I said in my communication to the officials, he can't do that. And they said, what? Oh, what? I said, go over to the sideline and say, he can't do that. And then, but make sure you at least make him feel a little bit better and give him the timeout back that he called to do that. But yeah, so
I appreciate the timeout back. That was a good compromise. But I mean, that's the thing that happens and there's other areas in this game, I think, which is really fun and fun to watch and is progressing nicely through the season. But there's some other detailed things that are going to come up that we didn't anticipate. That because ultimately you want a game that's player friendly, fan friendly, and production friendly, and that moves along, and so you don't have these obscure issues. But for the most part, I think things are in place.
Let's talk about a play in your game. When this whole league was put together, there was some excitement, but about legalizing a second forward pass from behind the line of scrimmage. And, there was different ways that it could be run. If you do a jet sweep and you just kind of pitch the ball forward, that's one pass. But you traditionally, to me, for a touchdown, right? This week has this double forward pass.
Yeah, when we were putting things together offensively and looked at the changes that the things that we're used to offensively, and oh shoot, we could throw a forward pass twice in the same play. And so initially it was kind of hard to sort out. Keep in mind, on paper is one thing, walking through on the practice field and doing all that kind of stuff is another, but when you got 11 guys that are getting to the ball in a hurry, it's hard to execute. But we felt like, based on some things that we had done prior, that we could take advantage of the rule, and we put the play in week before the game, and then it worked. So it was our second passer got hit quickly. There's not a lot of time when that ball goes. Everybody's going to the ball, and so you just don't have people to protect outside the box out there. And so, but anyway, we got the catch. We got the second throw off and ended up scoring a touchdown. By the way, side note, Ryan O'Malley, who caught the second pass that scored the touchdown, had just been here a week. We brought him in to replace an injured tight end we had, so he was all excited about it. Joe Walker, number 8, who catches the first forward pass and throws a touchdown pass. Not only did he get hit, but it's going to take a unique athlete out there to be able to make that catch and get that ball off and accurate in a position where you can make the completion. So overall, it was a great play for us. And I don't know if you got a chance to take a look at it, if you guys got video capabilities, but it ended up being the first one of the early USFL world, and I'm just waiting to see when that ball goes to the Hall of Fame.
I think it's interesting to me too, because the other part of that play is you really do have roughing the passer, because even though there's 2 passes, the second passer gets protection also if basically he sets up in a passing posture, which he did, and it was a high hit, which is technically a foul anyways, but just another crazy part of that play. I would have been.
Thanks for getting that right for me, because we would have kicked off from the 40-yard line, and we were clearly in a field position game at the time. So appreciate you guys missing that one.
Well, I'll send you a note of apology. You'll get it. You'll get it tomorrow.
I'll put it in that file. It's getting pretty big right now over the years.
You keep it back from the NFL days.
I do. Put this in Mike's file.
Letter. Yeah, that's good to know. Let's move on now to another play. Replay's tough. I'm learning that replay's tough since I'm involved in replay. And in the second quarter, 4 minutes to go, they had a play down at the goal line that was ruled touchdown, I believe. And I stopped it to look at it. And I just didn't feel like we could overturn it. Did you have any thoughts of that on the field, or do you get any perspective?
No, I mean, I had a couple looks, on the jumbotron. Talked to the staff upstairs. They didn't get anything different than you were getting, and they thought it was hard to piece it together as well. So, been around, challenges and replays long enough to know that everybody's doing the best they can. And unfortunately, sometimes that look or that shot where you can confirm it either way, so the ruling on the field stands. And, I was okay with that. I understand that, even though you have an abundance of cameras, sometimes you just don't get the right angle, and there's a lot goes on in the pile, especially around the goal line. So, you could say, well, I think, he may have, but you just have to go to the ruling on the field. Had they ruled it short, then I'm sure, that we would have lined up and got another chance to play on defense.
Rumor has it that you don't even bring a challenge flag out. Is that true, that you put 100%
well,
trust in the
initially, because you had sold us on the expertise in the booth, and you would be reviewing everything, so I didn't need it. And then when I heard early on in the season that you weren't getting the looks that you would hope for at each review, that I decided that, maybe I'll leave it in the locker room, maybe I'll send somebody in for it, maybe I'll stick it in my pocket. But this one I did borrow from your officials. I got out there empty pocketed and said I need a challenge flag. They said, we'll get you one. So
did you give it back?
No, I'm going to keep it. I have one that I debated on bringing with me and using my flag over the years. I have every challenge and Sharpie on the flag itself, won, lost, date, and game. So at some point when I officially get out of coaching, I'll send it to you, let you look at my record.
Great. Well, hey, listen, I'll frame that thing. Obviously, we have rule changes. Listen, 99% of what we have is NFL rules, but we put our own tweaks in them in a few different areas of the game. Has there been any that have been difficult for you that have had a bigger impact than others that maybe fans wouldn't realize?
I think on the front end, first glance is the play clock, but we've adjusted to that. The 35-second play clock is not an issue. I really am still intrigued by the changes on the kickoff, which in the kickoff and the kickoff return. They certainly benefit the return game. I've seen a lot of big returns, not as many touchbacks. But the one I'm most interested in is the changes that went into effect with respect to the punt return team and the punt team, where the gunners have to narrow their splits down. It's creating a lot of unusual things, and we're trying to stay ahead of those. When you're punting the ball down the field, your outside guys are going to go down and do their business. Well, when you allow them to run free down there, you create some different issues. But what we've done is we've reduced the box, if you will, the whole play. And so you got a lot more people closer to the line of scrimmage, closer to the ball. Therefore, it makes protecting for your punter much more difficult. And so the flip side of that is that as a rush team, it gives you an opportunity to maybe get a hand on a punt, get your hand down there and take the ball off the punter's foot. We've seen a lot of more block punts early on in the season. The return game hasn't changed, but just the dynamics of how all those things work, and you add that play clock to it. It's where my focus has been since the start, and I'll continue to be focused in that area. We did pull off a fake punt. I think it was the first one to date, and then we had another one after our game this weekend where someone executed, I thought, a really great play on a trap inside. So the creativity is starting to show up a little bit as people start to get more used to, the subtle rule changes.
Is there a player that stands out to you, or a couple of players that stand out to you that you think deserve a shot at an NFL camp going forward after the season?
It's a great question. There's players that we have faced or the first half of the season on opposing teams that go, oh boy, we gotta worry about this guy, or we gotta make sure we get this guy blocked, or this guy in space with the ball in his hand. So yeah, there's some guys. I have a couple guys. I don't want to limit to a couple because I believe in the guys on our roster, but there's some guys that I feel that will definitely should get an opportunity. Whether the timing thing works out or not, I don't know. It could be heavily dependent on how they finish. The timing of our season ends up, and it coincides with the start of training camp and so on and so forth. But I do have one guy in particular. Sean Williams is a safety that played at the Naval Academy. That's a great story. He's got some experience in the league. He's been in a training camp, but he's just one of those guys that day in, day out say, well, I would like to have him on one of my teams in the NFL in the past. He would be one of those guys that would be a difference maker for you on defense.
This is a heck of a segment for week 5 for After the Whistle. So we'll wrap it up. That's it. After the Whistle, week 5 is over. We will be back next week with plays from week 6.